2 sticks a cup.
Yeah.
That's good. Sometimes I say stuff and then I'm like, crap, did I say that right? Kind of looks like when you blow bubbles in your chocolate milk, which you probably never done because you've never immature like me. But that's what I used to do. I think it's mostly been at restaurants. Like if you go to a restaurant like Denny's or something and you got the chocolate milk. And then your parents tell you, don't blow bubbles in your drink. You animals. Behave. I'm glad you guys don't act like that. On the one hand, I want to get more of this mushroom moisture out. On the other hand, I'm bored. Welcome back to Doofus Proof. Today is Monday. For me. I don't know what it is for you. Monday here is Meatball Monday. Unless it's Mexican Monday. Today is Meatball Monday because I said so. And today, we're going to be making Grandma's favorite recipe. Somebody's grandma, I'm sure. Not mine. I don't know if they made Marsala Meatballs in West Virginia, but I just ruined it, the surprise. We're going to be making Marsala Meatballs. Ground turkey meatballs in a delicious Marsala sauce. So come along and let's get to it. Here we are at the cooktop in the kitchen, which is not for food prep. It's for dancing. So here we're gonna go. We're gonna start off with 1 cup of butter. I think is 2 sticks. That's what we're gonna put in is 2 sticks. However much butter that is. We're gonna let that start to melt. That's the word. And start bubbling. And once it starts doing that, we'll add our next ingredients. I don't think my other grandmother, she was from Oregon. I don't think she made Marsala meatballs either. So just so no one feels left out. Not my grandma's. I've got, believe it or not, more than one grandma. So this is gonna go. All right, I don't know if you can hear that, but here we have some bubbling butter. A bowl of bubbling butter. And to that, we're gonna add, we'll say 1/2 pound, or maybe we'll say 8 ounces, I don't know, of some diced mushrooms. I guess you could use canned if you wanted, but we're gonna go fresh. Just maybe it's a little more flavorful. I don't know. We'll get that stirred in. The next ingredient we have here is sliced ham. Now, technically, you should probably use prosciutto, which is probably also not how you pronounce prosciutto. But, well, this is what I call the poor man's prosciutto. Or is prosciutto the rich man's ham? I'm not sure, but either way, this is what we're using. Now, just a few slices of prosciutto would probably be fine because it has a much more dense flavor or something like that. But for me, I'm gonna go with about 1/3 pound of sliced turkey that I then sliced some more. Twice sliced, or thrice sliced, because I went in different directions. I don't know. It's been sliced and then sliced again. And so we'll add that to the mushrooms as well. Get this incorporated. You gotta keep it incorporated. Let this go probably for about 5 minutes. Any leftover fat in the ham can sort of render out a little bit, but also lets the mushrooms start to get a little more soft, shrink down a little bit, get some of that moisture evaporated out. So this is gonna go for a few minutes. It's been a few minutes and we've got a few more minutes because that's how minutes work. Some plus more is a few more. The mushrooms, they're starting to smell delicious. So you get that earthy undertones, a little bit of that ham smell, that's great. I'm really excited. Now you gotta remember to get the right type of mushrooms, which are edible ones. Don't get inedible ones because that'd be bad. Some mushrooms kill you because not all fungus is the same. Now these were regular mushrooms, not portobello, not baby bell, just regular old mushrooms, and I sliced them up. So this has been going for some time now. I don't know how long, I haven't been paying attention. And there's 2 ways to know when it's time to move on and add your next ingredient. One way is when some of the bubblings calm down and you can tell that some of the moisture's evaporated. Another way, I might have said there are only 2 ways, but there's lots of ways, infinite ways. But another way is to look at the bottom and start to see if you're starting to get them really fond at the bottom, showing that things are starting to cook and reduce. And the third way to know if it's time to move on is if you're just bored of waiting. And that's the way we're gonna use right now when we add our next ingredients. This is 3 tablespoons of shallots and 3 tablespoons of minced garlic. I've already cut them up semi-finely, as finely as I wanted to. We'll add that, and then we'll try and scoop it out of our bowl with a spoon that's too big. We'll mix that in, and we'll let this get in there for a good minute or so to help develop some of that delicious garlic flavor, but not burn the garlic. We've got this going at 8 heat, which I think is a good level for where we are right now. All right, next up, we're gonna go ahead and add the titular ingredient. I don't know if that's the right word, but the ingredient from which this dish derives its name, and that is Marsala. So I've got 1 cup of Marsala wine. It's a little bit sweet, delicious wine that I've only ever used for cooking. You generally don't get this in the wine section if you're looking for Marsala. At least I generally don't. They probably sell it there, but it probably costs more. I generally buy it next to like the vinegar because it's mostly a cooking wine. You'll notice I put in just a little bit. That little bit was just enough to start deglazing the bottom of the pan. I think that's fancy cook word for get some of the crap that started to cook to the bottom of the pan and get it incorporated in your sauce so it doesn't burn. So add a little bit again. Use this wooden spoon. I don't even know, is this a spoon? Wooden device that stirs and stir it in while scraping the bottom. Add the last little bit there. That was a cup. We're gonna put that in, let it boil for a few minutes, help produce some of that wine out while leaving some of the flavor. Cook out the alcohol. I think that's what people say happens. At least that's what I tell myself because I feed it to children, so I hope it does. Okay, so that's been bubbling for a few minutes. Next thing we're gonna add is our broth. A couple pro tips involved in this part. This broth we're gonna want to eventually reduce down. So what I did is instead of putting in 4 cups of broth, I put in 3 cups of water, but 4 teaspoons of the bouillon. So it's like I pre-reduced it, or at least let whoever makes my seasoning, let them reduce it a little bit for me. And then I also mixed in my cornstarch into this, so I don't have to make a separate slurry. It's already made in here. Well, that just made things quieter. Pour most of it in, and make sure we scrape off all the good bits. We'll let this come back up to a boil and reduce it for a little bit. All right, this has been boiling for a pretty good amount. You can start to see it's thickened up a little bit. It's not all the way there yet, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and add our final couple ingredients, our final couple dishes, which have some ingredients. This is a tablespoon of parsley and a teaspoon of rosemary. Adds a little color to the dish, because I don't know what else parsley does. The rosemary is delicious. And then we have here a half a cup of whipping cream. Whipping cream. Whipping cream. Much like most of the things in Back to the Future, it's not as heavy as you might think. It's a heavy whipping cream, Joe. That's heavy, man. And then Doc Brown's like, I don't understand. Is the gravity different in the future? So we're gonna go ahead and let this reduce. And while this is working and just slowly bubbling, we're gonna go ahead and get working on our meatballs. All right, so now we're gonna make the meatballs. First thing we're gonna do, crack our eggs, and we'll use 2 hands because there's nobody here that we want to splatter with it. If I had another partner in crime that I was gonna splatter with the egg juice, then yeah, I'd crack it with 1 hand to make sure that it gets a little more mess.
That's why you use 2 hands.
Apparently that's why you use 2 hands. But since I'm by myself, I'm not gonna mess with that. So that was a couple eggs. We're gonna go, I don't know, a couple tablespoons of olive oil. The reason I'm choosing to do olive oil is because this meat we're using is ground turkey. And ground turkey's a little on the leaner side, and sometimes your meatballs can get a little dry if you're not careful. So we've got our eggs, we're gonna mix those together. What I like to do is mix every ingredient, and then at the very end, put the ground meat at the end. 'Cause you don't wanna over mix it, at least I don't think so. I've been told. I don't know. Someone said it. Next thing we have here is about a tablespoon of shallots and a tablespoon of garlic. We'll go ahead and put in our spice mixture here. So what we have here is a teaspoon of oregano, a teaspoon of ground thyme, a teaspoon of rosemary, a teaspoon of parsley, and half a teaspoon of marjoram. Our second little dish here, we've got 2 teaspoons of salt, 2 teaspoons of black pepper, a teaspoon of chicken bouillon just to give it a little extra poultry taste, and a teaspoon of garlic powder just to give it a little extra garlic taste. Because garlic and chicken, I think it's a match made in heaven. Next up we have our panko breadcrumbs, 3/4 of a cup, 1/4 cup of Parmesan grated from a green jar. That's probably good. Our turkey here was just a little shy of 2 pounds because that's what it came packaged at. Don't ask me why Butterball decided to give Costco a weird measurement, 1.7 pounds. But because of that, I've also elected to add a little bit, maybe half to 3/4 of a cup of bacon crumbles. Maybe that'll add a little extra texture. Maybe it'll ruin everything. Who said I ever prepare? Assuming you plan far enough ahead, which we never do. I don't know. Okay. We'll get that there. And then 1.7 pounds of ground turkey. Mix this together because we want things incorporated, but we don't want it over mixed. We could do this by hand, but I don't want to. I have this cool tool I'm going to show you in a minute. It's pretty standard and most people have one. But since I'm using that, I figure why get my hands messy if I don't have to? Hope the anticipation is killing you. What am I going to use? What am I talking about? Some people have probably already guessed. The Hermione Grangers of the crowd that have the answer before everybody else. So we have our pan. It's this long by this long. And I went ahead and lined it with a silicone mat here. Makes cleanup easier, maybe. And here's our fancy tool, a cookie dough scoop. I don't know what they call these things. A baller, but not like basketball player. That's also a baller. Okay, we have them all balled up here for the most part. We've got, I don't know, 48-ish meatballs. And the cool thing about that baller is it made it so I was able to scoop them and make them all about the same size without getting too messy myself. But we're not gonna avoid mess completely because I like to make them a little more uniform, make sure they're holding together. I take my olive oil, pour it in my hand here, rub my hands together, and just make sure it's shaped. Doesn't have to be perfect, but put in some of those edges that you leave behind. This also gets a little coating of olive oil on the meatballs, which hopefully will keep the moisture a little bit better. Maybe give them a little more of a golden brown. I don't know if there's gold in it or not, but a good crust on it. Help maybe make a little Maillard reaction. I might have made that word up, but they say that, I think, in cooking shows sometime. All right, so we have them all balled up, just a little bit of oil on the outside from my hands. We're gonna put them in our preheated oven at 425 degrees for 12 minutes. That'll get them pretty much cooked, get a crust on the outside, and any further cooking can finish up in the sauce, which we're gonna let go in there for a little bit as well. So we'll see you when these come out of the oven. All right, so we got them out of the oven. You'll see that there's, actually, I don't know if you can see it. The camera might not be good enough, but there's just a little bit of browning on the meatballs. You start to see some of that cheese and some of the onions and delicious stuff is starting to come out the sides. It's exactly what we were hoping for, or at least that's what I'm gonna tell you. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and scoop these into the pot. We're gonna see if we can do this without making too big of a mess. Although if I do make a mess, I'll say that's what I wanted to do. All right, so we have them all mixed in here. We'll go ahead and put it back on the stove top and just let it simmer until we're ready. I think for our meal today, we're gonna boil up some noodles. You can do this over potatoes, you can do it over bread, you can do it over rice. I guess you could do it over dirt if you wanted to, whatever you want, but we'll let that just simmer and hold temperature while we're getting everything else ready. And we'll try one in just a moment by itself and see how it goes. And hopefully I didn't fail and it'll taste good and I can not lie to you. All right, well, let's bite into one of these and see how it tastes. It's gonna be hot. I'm a little nervous about that part. That was hot, but it's really good. The bacon, the onions, the garlic help keep some of the moisture in the meatball itself. Perfect balance of salt and spice is really good. You should make it because everyone's gonna love it. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for joining us here on Doofus Proof. Catch us next time when we have something else to talk about.